What happens when a simple conversation about motherhood turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history? Jessica Capshaw, known for her role as Arizona Robbins on Grey's Anatomy, appeared on the Clarkson show for what was supposed to be a light-hearted chat about her life after the medical drama. But what started as friendly banter quickly spiraled into a tense exchange that left the audience in stunned silence, and ended with Jessica walking off the stage. Before we get into what exactly was said that caused this dramatic exit, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts on celebrity interviews gone wrong. Clarkson opened the segment with her signature warmth, welcoming Jessica to the stage with genuine enthusiasm. The audience applauded as Jessica settled into the guest chair, smiling and waving to the crowd. Kelly began with what seemed like an innocent question about Jessica's experience raising 4 children while managing a career in Hollywood. "So, Jessica, you have 4 kids, which is incredible," Kelly said, leaning forward with interest. "How do you balance everything? I mean, I struggle with 2 sometimes." Jessica laughed, seemingly relaxed. I think the word balance is really misleading. I don't think anyone truly balances anything. You just sort of survive day to day and hope you are not messing them up too badly. Kelly nodded enthusiastically. Right. But you also have help, obviously. I mean, with your lifestyle, you must have a pretty solid support system. There was a slight pause. Jessica's smile flickered for just a moment. Well, sure. My husband and I work together as a team. That is the most important thing. Of course, Kelly continued. But I mean, you have nannies and staff and all of that, right? Which is totally fine. I am not judging at all. I just think it is important to be real about it, because a lot of moms watching might think you are doing it all alone, and that sets an unrealistic expectation. Jessica shifted in her seat. I think every mother does the best she can with the resources she has. I have never claimed to do it all alone. No, totally, Kelly said quickly, though her tone suggested she was pushing forward with her point. I just think there is value in being transparent. Like when celebrities talk about motherhood, but do not mention the help they have. It can make regular moms feel inadequate. Do you know what I mean? The audience had grown quieter. Jessica's posture had changed, becoming noticeably more rigid. Kelly, I understand what you are saying, but I think you are making some assumptions about my life that are not entirely accurate. Kelly seemed surprised by the pushback. I am not making assumptions. I am just saying that your experience as a mother is different from someone who does not have the same financial means. That is just a fact. It is different. Yes, Jessica agreed, her voice measured. But that does not mean my experiences as a mother are less valid, or that I should have to qualify every statement I make about parenting with a disclaimer about my privilege. I did not say they were less valid, Kelly responded, her own tone becoming more defensive. I am saying there is a responsibility that comes with having a platform. When you talk about motherhood, people listen. And if you are not being fully transparent, you are contributing to this culture of perfectionism that makes regular moms feel like they are failing. Jessica's jaw tightened. I have always been honest about my life. I share what I am comfortable sharing, but I do not owe anyone a detailed breakdown of my household staff or my finances just to validate my experiences as a mother. The tension in the studio was palpable. Now, Kelly leaned back slightly, clearly not expecting this level of resistance. Okay, but do you not see how it comes across as tone-deaf when someone with your resources complains about how hard parenting is? I never said parenting was uniquely hard for me, Jessica replied, her voice rising slightly. I said everyone struggles. Everyone has their own challenges. Just because mine might look different from someone else's does not mean they do not exist. Kelly shook her head. I think you are missing my point. I am talking about the bigger picture here, about representation and honesty in media. And I think you are making this conversation about something it was never meant to be, Jessica shot back. You invited me here to talk about my life and my career, not to put me on trial for having a certain lifestyle. I am not putting you on trial, Kelly said, her voice firm. I am asking you to acknowledge your privilege. That is all. I have acknowledged it, Jessica said flatly. Multiple times. What more do you want from me? The audience was completely silent now, watching the exchange with a mixture of fascination and discomfort. Kelly seemed to realize the conversation had gone off the rails, but appeared determined to make her point. I want you to understand that words matter, Kelly continued. That when you speak about motherhood without context, you are perpetuating a myth that hurts other women. Jessica stared at Kelly for a long moment, her expression hardening. You know what, Kelly? I came here to have a conversation, not to be lectured about my supposed responsibility to represent every mother in America. I have been nothing but gracious and honest, and you are twisting my words to fit some narrative you have decided I need to address. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, but Jessica held up her hand. No, I am done being interrupted, Jessica said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. You have spent the last several minutes telling me how I should talk about my life, how I should frame my experiences, and frankly, it is incredibly condescending. Kelly's eyes widened. Condescending? I am trying to have an honest conversation about representation. You are not having a conversation, Jessica countered. You are lecturing me. There is a difference. A conversation involves listening, and you have not listened to a single thing I have said since we started talking about this. Kelly sat up straighter, clearly bristled by the accusation. I have absolutely been listening. I just do not agree with you. Disagreeing is fine, Jessica said, her voice steady but sharp. But you are not disagreeing. You are telling me I am wrong for not performing motherhood in the way you think I should. You are putting words in my mouth and then criticizing me for things I never actually said. That is not what I am doing, Kelly protested, shaking her head. I am asking you to be more mindful of how your words land with your audience. Jessica let out a short, humorless laugh. My audience? Kelly, I am not even sure who you think my audience is right now. I came on your show as a guest, and you have turned this into some kind of social commentary that I never signed up for. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the increasingly heated exchange. Members of the production team could be seen at the edges of the frame, clearly unsure whether to intervene or let the conversation play out. Kelly took a breath, seemingly trying to reset. Look, Jessica, I think we are talking past each other here. All I am trying to say is that people with platforms have a responsibility to be aware of how their words impact others. That is it. That is the only point I am making. And I have told you repeatedly that I understand that, Jessica replied, her patience visibly wearing thin. But what you are really asking me to do is apologize for my circumstances. You want me to feel guilty for having help with my children, for having financial security, for having a life that looks a certain way, and I refuse to do that. I am not asking you to apologize, Kelly insisted, though her tone suggested otherwise. I am asking you to acknowledge reality. Whose reality? Jessica challenged. Yours. Because my reality is that I work hard. I love my children. And I do my best every single day, just like millions of other mothers. The fact that I have resources does not negate my experiences or make them less worthy of discussion. Kelly leaned forward again, her voice taking on a more intense quality. But that is exactly the problem. You are equating your struggles with the struggles of women who are genuinely desperate, who are working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, who cannot afford childcare at all. Do you not see how problematic that is? Jessica's eyes flashed with anger. I never equated anything. You are the one making those comparisons, not me. I spoke about my own life, my own experiences. I never claimed they were universal. You are building a straw man argument just so you can knock it down and feel righteous about it. The audience let out a collective gasp at the directness of Jessica's words. Kelly's face flushed, clearly not accustomed to being challenged so openly on her own show. A straw man argument? Kelly repeated, her voice rising slightly. I am trying to have a meaningful dialogue about privilege and responsibility, and you are acting like I am attacking you personally. It feels personal, Jessica shot back. Because you have made it personal. You invited me here under the pretense of a friendly interview, and instead, you have ambushed me with your own agenda. If you wanted to have a debate about privilege in Hollywood, you should have told me that beforehand, so I could have decided whether or not I wanted to participate. Kelly shook her head, her frustration evident. This is not an ambush. This is me asking questions that I think are important. Questions that my audience deserves to hear answered. Your audience, Jessica said slowly, does not deserve to watch you berate a guest for not conforming to your worldview. That is not entertainment, Kelly. That is not enlightening. That is just you using your platform to make yourself feel superior. The accusation hung in the air like a bomb. Kelly's mouth opened and closed, momentarily at a loss for words. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. I am not trying to feel superior. I am trying to use my platform to have real conversations about real issues. If that makes you uncomfortable, then maybe you should ask yourself why. Oh, I know exactly why I am uncomfortable, Jessica replied evenly. I am uncomfortable because you are being incredibly hostile while pretending to be concerned. You are wrapping judgment in the language of social awareness, and it is transparent. Kelly's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. I am not being hostile. I am being direct. There is a difference. No, you are being hostile, Jessica insisted. Direct would have been saying, hey, let us talk about privilege in Hollywood. Hostile is what you have been doing, which is putting me on the defensive and then criticizing me for defending myself. You are being overly sensitive, Kelly said. And the moment the words left her mouth, the energy in the room shifted dramatically. Jessica went very still. Overly sensitive, she repeated quietly, dangerously. That is what you are going with. Kelly seemed to realize her mistake, but pushed forward anyway. I just mean that you are taking this more personally than it needs to be taken. You have spent the last 15 minutes attacking my character and my choices as a mother, Jessica said, her voice low and controlled. And now you are telling me I am being too sensitive for having a reaction to that. Do you hear yourself right now? Kelly shifted in her seat, her expression hardening. I have not attacked your character. I have questioned your choices and how you present yourself publicly. There is a massive difference. And if you cannot see that, then I do not know what else to say. You do not have to say anything else, Jessica replied coldly. You have said more than enough already. You have made it abundantly clear that you think I am tone-deaf, irresponsible, and unaware. You have dismissed my experiences, invalidated my feelings, and now you are gaslighting me by pretending none of that happened. Gaslighting. Kelly let out an incredulous laugh. That is a serious accusation, Jessica. And it is an accurate one, Jessica said without hesitation. You are literally telling me that my perception of this conversation is wrong, that I am overreacting, that I am too sensitive. That is textbook gaslighting. Kelly's face had gone from flushed to pale. She looked out at the audience as if seeking validation, but found only uncomfortable silence. I think you are purposely mischaracterizing what I have said to make me look like the villain here. I do not need to make you look like anything, Jessica said sharply. You are doing that all on your own. Every word out of your mouth has been judgmental and accusatory. You have not asked me a single genuine question. You have only made statements disguised as questions so you could criticize my answers. That is absolutely not true, Kelly protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Now really? Jessica challenged. Then explain to me what you were hoping to accomplish with this line of questioning. What was your goal here, Kelly? What did you want me to say? Kelly hesitated. And in that hesitation, Jessica found her answer. You wanted me to grovel, Jessica said quietly, the realization dawning on her face. You wanted me to apologize for my life, to diminish my own experiences, to make your audience feel better by tearing myself down. That is what this was really about. That is not fair, Kelly said. But she would not meet Jessica's eyes. Isn't it? Jessica pressed. Because from where I am sitting, that is exactly what happened. You saw an opportunity to position yourself as the voice of the everyday person by putting me in my place. And you took it. You sacrificed a guest's dignity for what? Relatability? Ratings. Kelly's jaw clenched. You are way out of line right now. I am out of line? Jessica's voice rose for the first time, genuine disbelief coloring her words. You have spent this entire interview treating me like I am some kind of out-of-touch elitist who needs to be educated. And I am out of line for calling you out on it. I was trying to have an important conversation, Kelly said through gritted teeth. No, Jessica shot back. You were trying to score points. There is a difference. An important conversation requires mutual respect, and you have shown me none. You have been condescending, dismissive, and frankly cruel. Cruel. Kelly's voice went up an octave. I have not been cruel. I have been honest. You can be honest without being cruel, Jessica said, her voice breaking slightly with emotion. You can challenge someone without humiliating them. You can have difficult conversations without making the other person feel small. But you chose not to do any of those things. The audience was completely transfixed now. Some people visibly uncomfortable, others leaning forward to catch every word. The energy in the room had gone from tense to explosive. Kelly took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control of the situation. I think we need to take a step back here. This has gotten way too heated. You think? Jessica said sarcastically. What gave it away? Was it when you told me I was overly sensitive? Or when you accused me of perpetuating myths that hurt other women? Or maybe it was when you suggested I was being irresponsible with my platform. I was trying to have a nuanced discussion, Kelly said defensively. There was nothing nuanced about it, Jessica countered. You came at me with a predetermined narrative and got upset when I did not play along. That is not nuance. That is ambush journalism at best and bullying at worst. Kelly's eyes flashed. Bullying? Are you seriously going to sit there and call me a bully? What else would you call it? Jessica demanded. You have used your position as the host, as the person with all the power in this dynamic, to make me feel terrible about myself. You have twisted my words, questioned my integrity, and now you are acting offended that I am standing up for myself. I have every right to ask tough questions, Kelly said, her voice rising to match Jessica's intensity. Tough questions are fine, Jessica said. But there is a line between tough and cruel, between challenging and attacking. And you crossed that line about 10 minutes ago. Kelly stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Maybe we should just end this here. Jessica stood as well, her movements deliberate and controlled despite the emotion clearly running through her. For once, we agree on something. I did not mean for this to go this way, Kelly said. And for the first time, there was a hint of something that might have been regret in her voice. Did you not? Jessica asked pointedly. Because it seems to me like you got exactly what you wanted, a viral moment, something for people to talk about. Controversy. That is not what I wanted, Kelly insisted. But she still would not quite meet Jessica's gaze. Then what did you want? Jessica asked again, her voice softer now but no less intense. Because I genuinely do not understand what you were trying to achieve here. Were you trying to educate me? Shame me? Make an example of me? Kelly opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I was trying to have a real conversation about something that matters. At my expense, Jessica added quietly. You wanted to have that conversation at my expense. You wanted to use me as a prop in your narrative about privilege and responsibility. And when I did not cooperate, when I pushed back, you got angry. I am not angry, Kelly said. But her clenched fists told a different story. You are furious, Jessica observed. Because I would not let you control the narrative. Because I refused to be the villain in your morality play. The silence that followed was deafening. The audience sat frozen, cameras still rolling, capturing every second of the breakdown. Kelly finally looked directly at Jessica, and the expression on her face was complicated. A mixture of frustration, defensiveness, and something that might have been shame. I never intended to make you feel attacked. But you did, Jessica said simply. Intention does not erase impact. That is something you should understand, given that your entire argument has been about how my words impact others regardless of my intention. The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. Kelly's face flushed again, and she looked away. You know what the worst part of this is? Jessica continued, her voice quieter now, but no less powerful. I actually agree with you on the broader point. I do think people with platforms have a responsibility to be thoughtful about what they say. I do think conversations about privilege are important. But the way you went about this, the way you tried to make your point, was so hostile and aggressive that you completely undermined your own message. Kelly looked back at her, something flickering across her face. Maybe I could have approached it differently. Maybe, Jessica repeated, shaking her head. Kelly, you ambushed me on national television. You took what should have been a pleasant conversation and turned it into an interrogation. And now, even in this moment, you cannot fully own what you did. It is still maybe, still conditional, still qualified. I am trying to acknowledge your feelings, Kelly said, her voice strained. No, you are trying to end this conversation without having to actually apologize or admit you were wrong, Jessica corrected her. There is a difference, just like there was a difference between having a dialogue and what you actually did here today. Kelly's hands dropped to her sides, and for a moment she looked genuinely lost. I do not know what you want me to say. I do not want you to say anything anymore, Jessica replied, her voice firm and final. I have heard enough. I came here in good faith, and you violated that trust. You used your platform not to have a meaningful conversation, but to make yourself look good at my expense, and I will not stand here and continue to participate in it. So what, you are just going to leave? Kelly asked, and there was an edge of panic in her voice now, as if she was finally realizing how bad this looked. Yes, Jessica said simply. I am going to leave, because I have more respect for myself than to stay somewhere I am not being treated with basic human decency. Kelly's producer could be heard from off camera, saying something urgent but unintelligible. Kelly glanced toward the voice, then back at Jessica. We are in the middle of taping. You cannot just walk off. Watch me, Jessica said, and there was no anger in her voice anymore, just a calm certainty that was somehow more powerful than any of the heated words that had come before. "Jessica, please," Kelly said, and now there was definitely panic in her voice. "Let us just take a breath and figure this out." "There is nothing to figure out," Jessica replied. "You made your choices, and now I am making mine. I am choosing not to subject myself to any more of this. The audience," Kelly gestured weakly toward the crowd, "they deserve to see us work this out." Jessica looked out at the audience for the first time since standing up. Her expression softened slightly. The audience deserves to see people treat each other with respect. And that is not what happened here today. I am sorry they had to witness this, but I am not sorry for standing up for myself. She turned back to Kelly, and her voice was steady. "You know, Kelly, you have built your entire brand on being kind, on being relatable, on being the person who lifts others up. But today you did the opposite. You tore someone down to make a point. And I genuinely hope, that you think about why you felt the need to do that." Kelly's eyes were shining now, though whether with tears or anger was impossible to tell. "You are making this out to be so much bigger than it is." "Am I?" Jessica asked. "Or are you minimizing it because you do not want to face what actually happened here? You do not want to admit that you went too far, that you were cruel, that you let your own agenda override basic decency." "I was not cruel," Kelly whispered, "but there was no conviction in it anymore." "You were," Jessica said gently, and somehow the gentleness made it cut deeper. "You were cruel and you were wrong, and you owe me an apology. But I am not going to stand here and wait for one that I suspect will not come, or if it does, will be given only because you are worried about how this makes you look." She took a step toward the edge of the stage, and the camera operators scrambled to follow her movement. "Do not do this," Kelly said, and now there were definitely tears in her voice. "Please, let us talk this through." Jessica paused, turning back one last time. "We have been talking, Kelly, for the last 20 minutes. We have been talking. And every time I tried to explain how your words were affecting me, you dismissed it. You told me I was being too sensitive, that I was misunderstanding, that I was overreacting. You did not listen then, and I do not believe you would listen now. So there is nothing left to say." "I am listening now," Kelly insisted, taking a step toward her. "It is too late," Jessica said simply. "You do not get to be dismissive and hostile for an entire interview and then suddenly claim you are listening when you realize I am actually going to leave. That is not how this works." Kelly stopped moving, her face crumpling slightly. "I never meant to hurt you." "But you did," Jessica said. "And that matters. The impact matters. You taught me that yourself just a few minutes ago. Remember, when you were lecturing me about how my words impact others regardless of my intention." The call back landed like a physical blow. Kelly flinched visibly. "I hope you learn from this," Jessica continued, her voice still remarkably calm. "I hope you think about how you made me feel today and consider whether that is really the kind of interviewer, the kind of person you want to be. Because you are better than this, or at least I thought you were." And with that, Jessica Capshaw turned and walked off the stage. The camera followed her as she moved past the stunned crew members, past the producer, who reached out as if to stop her but thought better of it, past the exit sign, and through the door. The sound of it closing echoed through the silent studio. Kelly stood alone on the stage, the audience still frozen in shock, the cameras still rolling. She opened her mouth as if to say something, to address what had just happened, but no words came out. After a moment, she simply sat back down in her chair, and someone finally called to cut the cameras. What you just witnessed was one of the most intense confrontations in daytime television history. A conversation that started about motherhood spiraled into accusations of gaslighting, bullying, and using a guest for ratings. Whether you think Jessica was right to walk off, or believe Kelly had valid points to make, one thing is certain. This interview will be talked about for a long time. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on any fallout from this shocking moment, and drop a comment below answering this question. Do you think Jessica Capshaw was justified in walking off the show, or should she have stayed to work things out with Kelly?